Let's go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, and is it, I'm just asking, and you may not be able to tell me, I mean,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, you have to write them.
All right, is Dan Young with us today? I can't see who's attending. No Dan yet. All right, Earl, would you be so kind as to give the invocation for us?
Sure. Dear Lord, as we come before you today, we ask for your guidance, your help, and your understanding. Give us your peace and your strength and your willingness to look at our frailties and forgive them. Let us do things for our community and for the kids that we serve and for each other. For Christ, Lord, amen.
Amen. All right. Okay, so guest today, Dianna, nice to see you. So everybody, Dianna Hansen is our speaker today. She's the Executive Director for Central Oregon Disability Support Network. And let's see, I was told we were going to have some other guests on the call today, but I don't see them.
well, I appreciate your help, and I'll keep this number.
All right. I think that's it for guests today. Well, welcome, Dianna. We'll talk to you here pretty soon. We've got a couple other things to work through first. So birthdays today, I have Dave, and please forgive me, I can never say the last name correctly, but Dave Schluckabeer. His birthday's today. So if you see him or talk to him, tell him happy birthday from us. And all right, any other announcements?
If anybody needs a food bag, I'll be glad to get it to them. We're having a pickup on the 29th and the 30th. The 29th and 30th will be down at the Centennial Park from 10 to 11. And just let me know. Appreciate it.
Dan.
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know that we're back on board with the first Friday of every month serving at Jericho Table. So we're a couple of weeks away, but I'll be recruiting volunteers. So if you're interested, let me know.
All right, that's first Friday, correct?
First Friday.
Okay. All right, anybody else?
I have one. If anybody is in the VA healthcare system, you can get your vaccine shot in Bend.
That's great news. I'm just going to say.
All right, okay, so next up, we've got our Redmond Chamber of Commerce Coffee Clatter is going to be this Friday at 8:30. So I just want to invite all of you to attend that. If you're on Facebook, go to the Chamber's Facebook page and they'll be broadcasting. Those of you presenting, I believe I've already talked to everybody and we're working through what that looks like for all the presenters. And so feel free, if you're just attending via Facebook, if somebody asks a question in the comments, feel free to respond if you know the answer to that. We want to encourage everybody to be involved, even if you're not a presenter. And then I do have one other announcement. So Jody Husband is back working for the Redmond School District, and she said that they are in severe need of school supplies. So she has asked that if you've got any school supplies that you want to donate, you can take them to the Umpqua Bank in Redmond, the one that's kind of next to Fred Meyer. They will have a drop box in their vestibule available between 9 to 5 every weekday. Any monetary donations, so cash, check, gift card, those will have to be dropped off elsewhere. So hopefully we'll have some more instructions on that. But school supplies themselves, non-cash donations, they can take at Umpqua Bank in Redmond, and they will make sure that those get over to Jody Husband. All right. Any other announcements today? Okay, I don't see any hands, so it's time for Happy Dollars. Who's happy today? Earl.
I'm happy that the election is finally over with, the inauguration's over with, or the process going on, and hopefully we'll start having better news every day. And I'd also like to be happy for a second dollar, and that is I talked to my kids over the weekend on FaceTime, and everybody is healthy, and we're really glad to hear that.
Okay, Roland, I think I saw your hand next.
Yeah, I just also am pleased that we inaugurated a new president today, and looking forward to the days ahead with hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please.
Okay, Ellen.
I'm happy like everybody else is. I'm $5 happy.
I'm happy, $5 happy for Inauguration Day.
I'll have to join that same sentiment for $5.
Okay. All right, Hannah, I see you.
I'd like to give $5 today. Excuse me. Because yesterday at the board meeting, we decided to take on a flash box for Every Child Oregon, our speaker last week. And it's a box that has family games, gift cards and items. And I took on coordinating it, and we'll give that to them after the food drop off in March, unless we finish sooner. And my plan is to keep it simple, and I'm going to ask every new member to help me with it, just to keep it simple. They don't know it yet, but I know they're just waiting for something to do to contribute. So we'll be doing that.
Great.
Thank you, Hannah. I'm sure she'll have more details for us to come. But yeah, it's an exciting project, and we're happy to be involved with that. So Hannah, let us know if there's anything you need from the rest of us between now and that drop-off date in March. Okay. All right. Who else is happy today?
I've got a happy.
Naomi, I see your hand.
I have $5 for our first female vice president, which is and all that she is, of course, which is also a myriad of firsts.
All right, Dan.
I got a happy $5 for the beautiful, bright, sunny day and the hopeful future.
Yes. I hear the cold weather's coming, though, so don't get too excited about that sunny day. Okay, anybody else before we move on today?
Mimi.
All right, Nicole.
Mimi, hi, everybody. $5 for a beautiful day and hope. And I'm looking forward to that email from Amanda?
From Hannah.
Hannah. There you go.
Yes.
Okay.
Mike.
I'll go for $5. Got to watch my grandson play hockey. My daughter FaceTimed me from the rink for 3 different matches this last weekend, and they were very successful. Also great to see Oregon State's men's and women's basketball games, basketball teams at least playing again. And the men had 2 great victories. And we've made some vacation arrangements to travel, so we're kind of excited. Hopefully it's all going to come to.
Yes, we got to have those things to look forward to, definitely. Okay, anybody else? All right, I don't see any hands.
I got another one, Rachel.
Oh, Earl, okay.
I just had to get up a minute ago from the screen to answer the door, and my neighbor was bringing over a food bag for us.
Nice. I love it.
I actually have another happy dollar.
Okay.
I just thought of, as I'm sitting in this meeting having my lunch while we participate, I'm suddenly exceedingly happy for you, Rachel, because you facilitate this, which means you can't eat while we do this. And I just so appreciate your service. So that's a happy dollar for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I usually take about 5 minutes in the back afterwards, and then I'm back at it. Okay. All right. So our joke today was passed along by Mr. Roland, and I got a good chuckle out of this one, so I'm excited to share it with you. But two traveling strangers met in a roadside coffee shop. One expressed amazement that he went through a town that had a Macy's, a Target, a Costco, and a Kitchen Plus all together. He said, "What do you make of that?" The other traveler replied, "Well, I guess if you've seen that, you've seen them all."
Oh, awful.
All right, Diana, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Let me share my screen and see if I can do this right. Technology these days. I have to admire a couple of your video backgrounds, like the live background with the shark. I think it was Mike. Pretty impressive. So I was asked to come today to share about our organization, and I know, I don't know, a handful of you from previous presentations where we presented one of our programs, which is Bike for Life, and you guys have supported that in the past, so thank you so much. What CODSN is an organization that serves families and children with disabilities throughout Central Oregon. We also have a couple of new organizations that we've started in Eastern Oregon because they had no support organizations, nothing for children and their families with disabilities. And so we're mentoring a couple of new organizations in Eastern Oregon. So that's been kind of fun. What brings me here today is this fiery little strawberry blonde who, until COVID started, was working at Mazatlan. She is 17 now. She worked at Mazatlan for a couple of years, and now we're just on pause until it's safe for her to go back to work. She was born here in Central Oregon in 2003 at St. Charles Bend, and she's our youngest child. We have two older boys. When Victoria was born, within 2 hours, we were given 3 pretty large diagnoses for her that we were not expecting. We were told that she had Down syndrome, she had 3 holes in her heart, and she was born with transient leukemia. So as we've gone through this journey, my feisty little, well, not quite so little girl anymore, is doing quite well, considering the information that we received when she was born. The information said that she would live in an institution, she would never work, she would never drive, she would not dress herself even until she was 9 years old, all of these milestones. What we didn't realize with that information was that at the bottom of one of those very poorly photocopied sheets of information that the social worker had given us, it was dated 1966. So before my husband or I were even born, and that was the information that they were giving to families in 2003. So the very first thing that I did was to work with one of our Deschutes County cocoon nurses to put together some up-to-date and accurate information for families to receive when they were receiving a new diagnosis, instead of this gloom and doom, outdated stuff about institutions, when in fact, our last institution in the state of Oregon closed in 2003. We no longer have institutions for kids with disabilities. They live and work in our communities. They go to school with all of the other kids. Victoria is a junior at Ridgeview High School. And normally when we don't have COVID, she goes to school with all of the other kids. She's in general education classrooms. She works hard. You know, school is hard for her, I have to say. She works hard, but she does it. You know, I was just listening to her doing a presentation today for her biology class, and she gets it. She's doing it. She's doing great. But she is why I started this organization in the beginning of 2004 is when we started this. And I, in 2012, quit my accounting job. I'm an accountant by trade. Quit my accounting job to just do this work full time. It's wonderful work. We have a growing community. We have a lot of families in need and a lot of kiddos with disabilities who need resources and need advocacy help to understand, you know, the possibilities in the workplace, in living independently, being contributing members to our community here. So that's kind of what brings me here today. Here are just a few facts about disabilities. Oftentimes these surprise people, but 1 in 5 people will experience disability in their lifetime. Disability is one of those things that can happen at any time. It can happen at birth, like it did for Victoria, through an accident, disease, aging. Disability is one of the only minority groups that you can become a member of at any time also. There's no, you know, race or sex or socioeconomic group that disability does not touch. So it's absolutely one of those things that crosses every culture and everyone. People with disabilities, like I was sharing about Victoria, do attend school, they work, they drive, all types of relationships. Victoria absolutely has opinions and ideas on what she wants to do with her future. It's no longer that people with disabilities need a guardian to make their decisions for them. Victoria decided several years ago that she wanted to be a chef. She decided when she was 13 that she wanted to work for Mazatlan, a place that we go here in town often. And by the time she was 15, she had applied for a job there and got a job at Mazatlan because that's what she wanted to do. She does a variety of different things at Mazatlan. She definitely has her heart still set on being a chef. Her goals after high school are to attend COCC's Culinary Institute. And she has been involved in 4-H to raise money. She's well on her way to pay her own tuition for culinary school. So something that students with disabilities or kids with disabilities didn't have the opportunity to even do when we had institutions, and we would just ship them off with good intentions that was the best place for them. We've since learned that no longer is where our kids or people with disabilities belong. 1 in 54 children are diagnosed with autism. It is actually more prevalent in boys, which is an interesting fun fact. According to the United Cerebral Palsy Research, currently about 8,000 babies and infants are diagnosed with cerebral palsy each year. Cerebral palsy is a brain injury that can happen before birth, during birth, or shortly after birth. The National Down Syndrome Society estimates that 1 out of every 700 births is a person being born with Down syndrome. about 5,000 births per year. At CODSN, like I said, most of our services happen right here in Central Oregon. We have an office in Redmond, an office in Bend, Warm Springs. We work a lot with the tribal community in Warm Springs. And these other counties, Grant Lake, Wheeler, Klamath, Harney, and Baker, are where we are fostering new parent networks. So those are counties that we have a group of parents interested in starting an organization and bringing resources to these smaller communities. And so we're helping them with that. People ask all the time where our funding comes from. So 95% of our funding is from grants, small grants, larger grants. We do a lot of grant writing for the work that we do, and that's really what funds our operations. 5% comes from donations and fundraising. All of the services that we provide families, and I'll kind of go through the variety of things that we do provide for families, but nothing is ever a charge for families. So it's totally free. Starting off with support, this is one of the sectors of things that we do. We do all different types of support for families. So we do have like formal support groups. We have a dad's group, which primarily is single dads raising kids, and they get together. Well, they were getting together in person for pizza once a month to just kind of support each other and share stories and resources. We have a mom's group that generally meets at lunchtime. We have a Spanish-speaking group for families that speak Spanish, and we have just a family group that's, you know, anyone that wants to attend. A lot of times now that we're on Zoom, we have whole families attending, which is kind of fun. We get to, the kids get to interact a little bit, and the parents. We also do a lot of direct connections. So one of the more recent examples is I had a family contact me who just received a new diagnosis for their baby. It was a rare genetic disorder, and their wish was really to just talk to another family who had a child with this diagnosis. They didn't know anybody. It wasn't as common as Down syndrome or autism. And we were able to connect that family with another family in our area who had a child that was a couple of years older with that same diagnosis. And it's so wonderful and fun when you can do that, because then you talk to the families afterwards and they're like, oh my gosh, like this other family is like our new best friends. Like we call them on good days, on bad days, we share information, our kids are becoming best friends. Those are the kind of connections that you can't find at a provider organization. You can't go to your doctor and say, hey doctor, you have all of this information, which is really great, but I really just want to talk to another mom that's going through this right now, that understands, that knows what it's like 24/7. And so that's a big way that we support families and connecting them with each other. And then before COVID, we used to do in-person family fun events. So we would meet at, you know, one of the parks or at the movie theater or those kinds of things, where families had a chance to just organically meet and come together. They would, you know, share contact information and that kind of stuff. Because one thing that we have found in our community is that programs come and go, state and federal support come and go, but we always have our community. We always have the families in our community and the organizations in our community that are here to support us. And so connecting families with each other and their communities is really super important. Information and referral. This is a large part of what we do too. We have so many families moving into Central Oregon right now. I talked to 2 new families who are moving here just yesterday alone, and they need information on, you know, I have a son with autism. What physician should I contact? Or I need to find a new dentist for him. He has huge, sensory needs in his mouth. He's very sensitive, and some dentists just haven't worked well with that in the past. And so a lot of families just calling us all of the time for information, resource, and referral. So we do a ton of that kind of stuff. We also do have a lending library where we have hundreds of books and media that we will mail to families anywhere in the state, quite frankly, if families can benefit from having some of that information. Advocacy, that's another big part of what we do. We do a lot of state and federal advocacy as an organization. We also do individual advocacy. So as you know, right now with COVID and distance learning, one of the big needs families have come to us for is help understanding and navigating distance learning for their kids. Oftentimes, well, for a lot of kids, distance learning is not necessarily the way that they learn best. They oftentimes need a little more support. They need a teacher right there that can see how they're doing their work, to be able to answer questions for them and direct them. Distance learning has been really hard for students with disabilities, and so we've had a lot of families contact us wanting help to understand how they could advocate for their kids to have some more support, how they could advocate for some more tools, or one-on-one. It just depends on the student. But we also help individually families advocate medical systems and developmental disability systems and all the systems that I never knew anything about when Victoria was born. We have two typically developing boys who thrived, who didn't need anything extra. I didn't know anything about systems per se. We went to the pediatrician once a year for their well child visits, and they just developed the way they were supposed to. Within days of Victoria being born, all of a sudden we have a team of 9 doctors. We have people contacting us from early intervention over at the High Desert ESD and showing up at our house to do therapies. And all of a sudden we are thrown into this system through Deschutes County Developmental Disabilities. It's a lot. It's a lot on top of everything else that you're going through. So we really help families navigate those systems and get hooked up with things that would support their families to be successful that way. Education and training. We do parent trainings. A lot of parent trainings right now, or all of our parent trainings, are done via technology. We record them so they're available for families later too. We do a lot of professional development working with schools. We have trainers in our organization who are trained in a lot of different things, person-centered planning. We have trainers that do sessions on mental health first aid for youth. So we end up doing a lot of trainings with educators, and even, we've done trainings for Deschutes County for our leadership and for our commissioners around disability and mental health in our youth. And so that's been really great. We do school presentations. A lot of times we get contacted from different schools saying, hey, we would love for you guys to come do an assembly so our students can have a better understanding about what disability is. And so we just did one of those at a middle school, and it was really interesting because it was on Zoom. Normally we do kind of a general session, and then we have stations so the students can experience what it's like to navigate their school in a wheelchair, or experience what it's like for a few minutes to navigate with headphones on that have maybe like different voices in them to simulate what it might be like for somebody with schizophrenia. We have all these different stations where kids can really experience their school with, you know, an idea of what it might be like to have a disability for a day. So we do a lot of that stuff. We also do business welcoming training, and that really is, we have stores and restaurants and all kinds of businesses that contact us and say, you know, we really want to be welcoming to everybody. We don't know anything about disability or what we could do as a business to be more welcoming. So we'll come into stores and we have all kinds of volunteers that use mobility devices and different things like that. And they'll navigate the store and help the owners or managers kind of come up with some ideas on things that they could do that would make the business more welcoming. One example is a clothing store we were asked to come into. And so for our volunteers, we had 2 of them who use wheelchairs to get around, and they couldn't get between the aisles of clothes, like they were so close that you couldn't push your wheelchair through. And then even when we would help them, the clothes would like come back and like slap them in the face because they were just at that, you know, lower level. And so that shop owner easily was able to rearrange the store to where there was more space. So if somebody wanted to shop who was in a wheelchair or even a walker, they would be able to navigate that store much easier. So we've done a lot of that also with churches. We have one church here in town who called and said, hey, we had a new family that moved into town. They have 2 boys with autism. We want to support this family. We don't know how. So we were able to come in and do an autism awareness kind of 101. What is autism? The mom of these 2 boys also presented with us on her boys' specific needs, because autism is a spectrum and there can be hundreds of different ways that somebody experiences life with autism. And so it was so great because the congregation was just like so open and happy to help, but they just needed some tools and information on how to do that. So those are a few examples of training that we've done and are available to do in the community. One of the other things is Rising Stars grants. So that's a grant program that is funded by the Alice Hatch Foundation. They specifically wanted us to gear it for kids birth until they start kindergarten. So families can apply for these mini grants. It's $400 per child, and they can apply for things that aren't covered anywhere else. We pay for a lot of orthotics, or like, you know, leg braces, those kinds of things that might not be covered by insurance. We pay for additional therapies. Sometimes, oftentimes, insurance companies have a limit on how many therapies a child can have in a calendar year. And oftentimes, a child might need more therapies than their insurance company will cover. So we can apply that $400 to additional therapies, or it's pretty broad on things that we can help families with. And then the Bike for Life camp that you guys have supported in the past, thank you so much. That is a camp that we normally do in the summer here in Redmond, and it's a way for anyone to come and learn how to ride a bike who needs a little help learning how to ride a bike. We have a very good success rate with that camp. Almost every person that comes out of the camp is riding, and it's so fun to see them like around town riding bikes, whether it's with their family, you know, on one of our trails, or there's a couple of kids, I'll see them, they ride their bikes to school and that kind of stuff. So that's a fun little project that we've done, and hopefully, we're really hoping and working with the school district to be able to provide that again this summer. Last summer, we weren't allowed to provide that because of all of the restrictions for COVID. But we're hoping to have Bike for Life again this coming July. So that's some of the stuff that we offer. I tell people oftentimes what we offer is as individual as each family. And a lot of times it's the families calling us. They don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what they need sometimes. So by them calling and just sharing their story, like what's going on for you? Like what do you feel is going well and what might not be going so well? And when they do that, we're able to just immediately start a list of resources and things that we can plug them into. And so families don't need to know why they're calling us, to just call and say, hey, I have an 8-year-old with autism or cerebral palsy or whatever it might be, and I'm just kind of curious how you guys might be able to help us, or what you have that we might not know about yet that you can help plug us into. So currently we are supporting 2,283 families, so quite a few families. We have 1,251 community partners, and I have to tell you, we could not support this many families and do what we do in this community without community partners. So thank you guys for being one of those. We also have 19 local and state committees that have representation, whether volunteer or staff or our board members, who are all volunteer board members. Just being at tables, being at county college to be able to share about disability, being at the different advisory committees and things like that around the state and our local, towns, in order to share information and share views from people, and families who experience disability, and to kind of bring that lens to some of these conversations, especially as we grow as a city. And we have so many exciting things happening all the time now. It seems like it's really important to us that somebody is at the table bringing that voice to the conversation and that perspective. So some of these other things are just, numbers. We obviously have a website. We have a Facebook page. A lot of people like to connect via social media. So we do have those options for families, for anyone. These are just numbers on how many people attended things that we've had over the last year. So there's a lot of different ways. If you're interested in getting involved, you can, the biggest thing you can do is to share information. We run across families all the time, even as long as we've been here, and we run across families who don't know that we're here, that could benefit from services. And so sharing our services with anyone that you run across that has kiddos with disabilities, that would be great. Of course, donating is always great, or volunteering. Right now with COVID and everything being online, we don't have as many volunteer opportunities, but we hope to get back to that soon, in-person events and stuff. We'll see how that goes, but we're very hopeful. So I am happy to answer any questions that any of you have right now.
I have a question, kind of just logistics. What's your email address? I was going to send you an email after the meeting about just, I'm in lending, and I'm curious how a myriad of disabilities feel underserved or undercared for. And I'm thinking of like access or communication, but also even mental and emotional needing additional space held, like extra care and extra time and extra mindfulness. And I was going to email you, but I'm looking on your website. I don't see your email address.
Yeah, so I just put it up on the screen that I'm sharing. It's Dianna with 2 N's, at CODSN.org. Yeah. So anybody can feel free to email me with any questions or things like that there too, but I'm happy to answer if anybody else has questions.
Dianna, just a comment, not so much a question, but really thank you for getting involved in something like this that lots of times, the institutions can't do all the things that need to be done. And it takes individuals like yourself to have a concern, get involved, organize it and get it going. So I really congratulate you on what you've done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Dianna, this is Roland. I also want to thank you for presenting all this important information. And to me, I'm surprised to some of the numbers of the prevalence there is of disabilities in our own communities and the numbers. And what comes to my mind is that first thing Art Kiwanis thinks about is kids, but with disabilities, most of them are lifelong. So within all those numbers, do you stay with people with disabilities as they grow out of childhood and into adulthood? Can you expand on that briefly?
Yeah, so I am not good at saying no or turning anyone away. We generally work with kids birth through 26, which is kind of through that transition to adulthood period. And then we do have in our community, we have quite a few organizations that work with adults with disabilities. So then generally we'll do a warm handoff and introduce them to Opportunity Foundation or one of the other organizations that really do a lot of that work for people that are adults. So, but yes, right now I'm working with a gentleman who's 37 who just moved into our community with autism, and he's trying to get established because he called and said, I need some help, so we're always happy to help anyone.
Thank you, Dianna. Okay, do we have any last questions before we wrap up for the day?
Dianna, I just want to remind everybody that this recorded presentation will be available on our website tonight at redmondkiwanis.org.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, and then everybody feel free to follow up with Dianna. She's got her contact information up there, so feel free to grab that really quick. Our final thought for the day today, I thought it's kind of fitting, not just for where we're at in the world, but everything we've experienced over the last year. But this thought is from Carl Bard, and he said, although no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending. So, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you soon. Bye.